In the midst of that, Stephen A. Smith goes on the show yesterday and decides to respond to Sheryl Swoopes and some of the things that she was saying about him. And he really didn't hold back, and he doubled down on his position. So those are the comments that we want to play for you now, and I want to come back and give you guys our closing thoughts on this entire exchange. Take a listen to Stephen A. Smith here.
We know what she did at the WNBA All-Star game. They averaged like 3.4 million viewers on ABC. That All-Star week. I mean, come on now. This is Caitlin Clark. This is the Caitlin Clark effect. And so it's time for everybody to stand down. It's time for everybody to admit, Stephen A., you were right. You were right, Stephen A. Caitlin Clark should have been on Team USA. Should have been on Team USA. And we also write about the fact that there's been some haterade being thrown in her direction. Okay? Because there's no excuse to have resentment towards her. And see, we don't want to address the big elephant in the room, but we ain't going to run from it today because Sheryl Swoopes made news. Now, she made news last week when she sat up there and was applauding Indiana Fever players, but then forgot to mention Caitlin Clark. She jumped all in my ass because I sat up there and said, hey, how you going to ignore Caitlin Clark? You know what she brings to the table. How you just going to ignore her? That's not an accident. Sheryl Swoopes is a champion. A champion. Look at her tweet and what she put up about me. You talk about whomever and whatever you want to on your podcast, correct? So why can't I? Also, did you listen to the entire episode? Nope. I have a personal relationship with these players, and they deserve recognition as well. That ain't the point, Sheryl Swoopes. Yes, I did listen to your entire podcast. You didn't mention Caitlin Clark. So I was right, number one. Number two, your personal relationship, what that got to do with your coverage? Ain't nobody said don't mention them. Ain't nobody said don't applaud them. Nobody told you to ignore them. What we're saying is if you're going to give the Indiana Fever all the credit in the world, how you going to mention the Indiana Fever without Caitlin Clark's name even coming up? So then after that, Sheryl Swoopes engages in levels of immaturity. There's no way to slice it. I'm not going to insult this champion, this great basketball mind, this phenomenally accomplished Hall of Famer. I'm not going to insult her. All I'm going to say is it was pretty damn immature to come back at me like that. Called me an effing coward because I called you out for not doing your job. So you on a podcast that means you don't have to do your job? I mean, the bottom line is this. She engaged in a level of immaturity. Let's just call it what it is. I mean, to just bite at me like that. Oh, why? Because what did I say? What did I say? You want to know what I said? Take a look at what I said last week about Sheryl Swoopes. Respectfully, Sheryl Swoopes, you have any idea how that makes you look? You have any idea how that serves to stain any kind of critique of Caitlin Clark, because that gives fodder to those who believe she's being hated on and ostracized to some degree. Do you realize that, Sheryl Swoopes, you're insane to do that? Let me tell you why you're insane to do that. Because Sheryl Swoopes, you're one of the greatest players ever in the history of basketball. That's why. See, you won a championship in college at Texas Tech. You won 3 Olympic gold medals. You won 4 WNBA championships. You know basketball. You know basketball better than me. You know basketball than any of the pundits. You know basketball better than most of the men that play basketball. There is no way in hell you just accidentally left Caitlin Clark's name out of that soliloquy that you dropped about the Indiana Fever. Stop it. You know that. Stop it. I mean, listen, the bottom line is this. There's a whole bunch of reasons that I'm quite sure Sheryl Swoopes can come up with. Who can imagine that she's got stuff on her mind? Lord knows what she's got on her mind and what she wants to express. I get all of that. People can speculate till the cows come home about what that is. But one thing that's undeniable is that she seems to get offended with her objectivity being questioned, her professional objectivity. The problem is she's the one that brought her professional objectivity into focus by her own behavior. What possible excuse could you have talking about the Indiana Fever and nary a mention of Caitlin Clark? How is that possible? How's that possible? You know what Indiana was before she arrived. You know what their attendance was before she arrived. You know what merchandise sales was before she arrived. You know what attendance was before she arrived. You know what the ratings were before she arrived. How could you not mention her? It makes no sense. So I can understand why Sheryl Swoopes would have an attitude with people who would question her professional objectivity. But I also understand why people would look at her like she's lost her ever-loving mind. Because you're literally putting the lack of professional objectivity on display for audiences to see, and then you're looking at us acting like what's wrong. It's like you spitting in people's face telling them it's raining. Makes no sense. Makes no sense.
So you heard what everyone had to say there. Look, the truth of the matter is, Caitlin Clark is something unlike anything the WNBA has experienced. This young lady is literally going out there and breaking records. To give you guys the most recent one, she set a record. She set a record for attendance this year. More than 500,000 fans have watched Caitlin Clark's record-shattering rookie season in person, setting a new highest attendance high for the WNBA. We cannot gloss over a figure like that. And I think that that's what Stephen A. Smith is doing. Now, I think what's irking him is that it seems to him at least, that he's the only one that seems to notice this and the importance of it. He's sitting there, and I think Shannon Sharp has a similar position, which is you guys, in this case referring to the WNBA, has been complaining about not getting enough recognition, not getting enough support. You saw Lisa Leslie when she was there talking on the shop with Draymond Green, saying she wished the NBA would support him, and then Draymond got upset. He's like, we already support you and all of that. WNBA players have been complaining that they want support, that they would like to make more money and make better money. This is something they have been lamenting for years now. And here you have a unicorn walk through the door in Caitlin Clark, who is literally carrying the league on her back in terms of popularity. Not the best player, none of that. We're just talking about the eyeballs that she's bringing to the sport. You guys have something like this, and you're finding ways to screw it up. You're finding ways to screw it up by nitpicking this, looking for this issue, looking for that issue. And to him, it is something that he frankly doesn't understand. I believe is the same thing that Shannon Sharp doesn't understand. As a matter of fact, I think there are a lot of people that don't understand this resistance towards her, when the data shows that a lot of people enjoy watching her. We have never discussed the WNBA ever. Matter of fact, it's something I have never paid attention to up until this